matter because the difference is quality. We're WVIZ Cleveland, Akron.
Major funding for this program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the financial support of viewers like you. Additional funding is provided by the Health Insurance Plan of Greater New York, the Robert Wood Johnson Jr. Charitable Trust, the Vincent Astor Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, and the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation.
Welcome to our broadcast. Tonight we spend an hour with actor Danny Glover. He began his career as an activist who took roles for their political value in the struggle for the rights of African Americans. He came to national attention when he starred in the New York production of Athol Fugard's play, Master Harold and the Boys. He's perhaps best known for his work opposite Mel Gibson in the Lethal Weapon films, and he's also starred in Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple and Lawrence Kasdan's Grand Canyon. He continues to be an activist working presently in the fight to improve literacy. We're pleased to have him here for an hour. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's really good to have you.
All right.
You did get...
I like the way you begin there.
What'd you like about it?
Well, the fact that I began as an actor, as an activist.
Well, there was something. I mean, you got into acting because at the time of student unrest and student ferment at your college, they needed someone to put together some kind of black theater, a revolutionary theater.
Actually, Amiri Baraka came out there.
Yeah.
And I had never been on stage before. This is in like 1967. Amiri Baraka, most people may know him in New York as also Leroy Jones, came out to San Francisco State, had been invited there by the Associated Students for a semester. And he began a theater, a communication project, which included theater, dance, poetry, just so many things. And it was based in the community. And he came into the Black Student Union office one day, I remember, and said, we need some of you brothers to be in these plays. And so I happened to be in there, and I happened to go to the audition where I couldn't get 2 words out. And I still have problems sometimes getting 2 words out.
You mean out of fear or anxiety?
Out of fear, mainly, you know. And I've never been on stage before, but I got the role nonetheless because not too many of those brothers came to that audition. And so
they had other things on their mind.
Yeah, well, at least other things, but not acting being one of them. And so something happened to me when I did that. And
what was it?
I don't know whether it was finding something or doing something where with myself expending a great deal of energy that I was able, I accomplished something, you know, and maybe at 20 years old, it was nice to accomplish something like that. And probably what I accomplished was that I overcame whatever apprehensions, whatever anxieties, and whatever fears I had, and went on and did that.
When did you feel that you had some talent?
Well, I don't know if I feel that now. I don't know if that ever has come about. I feel that more than anything else, that acting gives me an opportunity to say something about life, to say something about humanity, you know, and that's in itself an accomplishment in itself is something wonderful.
Yeah, you bet it is.
Yeah.
When is it? But did you right out of college say this is what I want to do?
No. I had to muddle around. I finished school and then I did an internship in 1971 with the Berkeley City Planning Department, and then I came from there to San Francisco and worked in the mayor's office doing evaluative research for 6 years. About midway through, I figured this wasn't going to happen for me.
This is not for Danny.
With the Office of Community Development and the Model Cities program. So I did that.
But that somehow explains the long-standing interest you have in community affairs and in politics and in the plight of African Americans.
Well,
all of those things.
Well,
a sense of interest in fellow men.
Well, that comes basically from I think the kind of legacy that my mother left, my father left. You know, my father's. I said you ever said legacy. My father's still here with me, but it comes with that, you know. And I'm a product of a very unique period in this country. You know, I grew up in the civil rights movement. I grew up watching heroic people put their life on the line for something of value, and that affected me. However much it did as a child, certainly as I began to probably embody some of those ideals as a young adult.
Mm-hmm. And when did you decide acting?
Well, you kind of find. I told someone that it had not been for Fugard, right, that I probably would have ended up doing something else.
But his words were so powerful when you...
His work was so powerful. His work provided you with the structure in which you could work as an actor, which is much needed. I mean, you have to work and understand that there's a relationship that happens between two people. It's not just one person out there doing this thing and another person out there doing this thing. That there's something that happens between two people. His work allowed me to do that. And then it had something that I wanted to say. So I could dedicate a performance to Malcolm maybe one night, and because it was that powerful, I felt I was giving something. It felt like you're giving something. And you have to feel that too. You know, since acting, since art is an act of love, the feeling of giving something. So I can dedicate I remember dedicating several performances of his plays to Mandela, you know, or whatever, you know, or someone homeless that I met on the street, to dedicate my performance. It elevated the performance itself. So that process came later on once but I started doing it because I started doing it just to have something relaxing to do, and at night, you know, after doing a great deal of, you know, doing my work during the day.
When you thought of those people you dedicated those performances to, I mean, were you visualizing them, or was that just something that gave you an extra spurt at the beginning of the performance?
Well, no, it certainly gave me a purpose. The performance took on a purpose. Yeah. It took on an added dimension once I said that this is for someone. It may have been for my mother, you know, it may have been for anyone it could be for. It may have been from someone I saw in a picture. And since a lot of when I'm working, a lot of what I get is from photographs. I mean, photographs like what they said, a picture can say 1,000 words. I remember I had this book, House of Bondage, which is a pictorial by Ernest Cole, done in 1963, and it was such a moving pictorial on the situation of apartheid and the condemnation of apartheid, and I would look at that book, or I would dedicate it to a man's face I saw in that book, you know, to find any way of elevating your work, you know, of giving a meaning. So that was my approach to acting. Others have other approaches. As I said, I came into acting because somebody said that it was your responsibility to be out there. If you guys consider you to be activists, the responsibility. So acting always, to some extent, has some sort of message in it. My art has some sort of message in it. It says something, and not always explicitly, but often implicitly it says something.
Did Fugard teach you, or did you learn from him about race and about relationship between races?
Well, no, I didn't. I mean, what his work, what the humanness of his work,
and the characters,
and within the characters, the humanness of these characters gave me another dimension on my own situation. You know, so Zachariah, I saw Zachariah, whether he was in Port Elizabeth, or whether he was in San Francisco, or whether he was in 116th to 7th Avenue, that was the same Zachariah. Yeah. So I understood that. You know, it broadened my ideas of the world, and made my struggle a part of that struggle of people who face inhumanity and injustice.
Is your politics then rooted, though, in sort of 60s activism? I mean, that was the shaping, the civil rights movement provided you with your first heroes other than your parents.
Yeah, I mean, civil rights certainly did, you know. But
so the 60s were a shaping time for you.
The shaping time for me, you know. I mean, that's where I grew up within that period of time. I grew up in the Haight-Ashbury, not only listening to very, very non-establishment music, but also dealing with non-establishment ideas often, yeah.
Remember your mother for me, because she seems to have had a powerful, powerful influence, and to have known that you were going to make it as an actor in a significant way.
Well, my mom and both my mother and father always would say that all I expect from you to, whatever you're going to do in life, is to work hard at it and be the best you can be at it. Obviously, my mother was my biggest supporter. My mother was my mother herself liked to, she dressed, she was a great dresser, and she's a very stylish woman, right. And she liked those things that drew attention to her. She liked a lot of attention as well, you know. But she was just such an enormous woman with an enormous appetite for life and living, you know. She had taken whatever she had in life and made more of it, you know. And there were opportunities where she could have given up, but she was kind of like the leading kind of component in our life, you know. And she was always there. Her shadow is always in there. And as the oldest child, I think from the time when she was my den mother, and we lived in the projects. And when is it now that you have the people live in the projects and you have them having a Cub Scout? You know, I was a Cub Scout in the projects. You imagine that? And my mother, I remember I would press my pants because I wanted to make my mother proud of me. I was in love with my mother, absolutely, and still, I mean, always was, always have been, always will be. And I always wanted her to make her proud of me. Maybe that comes with the territory, being the oldest and being a male or whatever. But also I realized that I see a lot of myself in her, you know. And
what do you see of yourself in her?
Well, I see her self-righteousness sometimes. A lot of it.
In which way? In what way?
Well, in a lot of ways. I mean, when I'm passionate about it, I see my passion comes from, not that my father is impassionate, because he's a very passionate man as well, but I see a lot of my passion that comes from her. I see a great deal of my thoughtfulness coming from my dad, you know, because he's a very deliberate and very thoughtful man.
More introspective than
more introspective than my mother, you know. And that's, or just as in a different way, that is expressed in a different way. But I just, my smile is definitely, that's why I'm looking at my dad now.
Smile, did she?
Yeah, she had the most beautiful smile in the world. She's just a very generous woman.
Did she see places in the heart?
She never saw places in the heart. I told her about it. I remember writing, she told me this. It was around April 1973. No, excuse me, 1983. I'm trying to date myself way back. But 1983. We were riding somewhere. It was my dad and I. And my mother would often have her tarot cards read or
she would mystic a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's part of their territory, right, too. A lot of that came from where she came from. My grandmother is as spiritual as she is in terms of just a religion. She is just as mystic in a lot of ways, you know.
My grandmother used to put her hands on a Ouija board, and just watch it, and it would spell out the letters, and she would believe.
Oh, yeah.
That there was some spirit at work telling her and sending her a message.
Absolutely. And
I used to put my hands on that Ouija board, and it would never move me. But go ahead. Tell me about, so you're riding somewhere before 1983 with your dad.
I remember it was a Sunday, around sometime in late April 1983. And my mom said, she didn't say exactly that she had gone to see someone who had read her, you know. And then